We begin in the Middle East, where thousands of displaced Palestinians are returning to northern Gaza. Live footage shows long lines of people streaming along the coastal road, many carrying their belongings on their backs. Residents were permitted to start returning on foot 4 hours ago, using Rashid Street, the coastal road. 2 hours later, vehicles were allowed to travel into the area but must pass through checkpoints for inspection. Over the weekend, thousands of Palestinians hoping to return home gathered at the military barrier blocking the route. Israeli authorities made the return of tens of thousands of Palestinians to northern Gaza conditional upon the release of an Israeli civilian hostage, Aurelia Hood. She wasn't released on Saturday, unlike 4 women soldiers. Hamas has now agreed to release her, along with 2 other hostages, on Thursday, followed by 3 more on Saturday. In other developments, Egypt has rejected the idea of relocating Palestinians from Gaza after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that more than 1 million Gaza residents should be resettled in other Arab nations. Trump referred to Gaza as a demolition site and proposed it be cleaned out, a statement that sparked widespread outrage among Palestinians and Arab countries. Egypt and Jordan have both dismissed the idea, asserting that Gaza is the rightful home of its residents. Meanwhile, some far-right Israeli ministers have supported the notion of encouraging Palestinian emigration. Now let's turn to our correspondent John Donison in Jerusalem. John, we're seeing extraordinary images of thousands of people returning north. What can you tell us about their situation? John, these are not just thousands, but tens or even hundreds of thousands of Palestinians on the move. It's estimated that over 500,000 displaced individuals in southern Gaza are attempting to return. Many will find their homes destroyed. 60% of Gaza's buildings have been damaged or demolished, according to the UN. Yet people are determined to go back, even if it means rebuilding from rubble. This morning at 7 a.m. local time, Palestinians were allowed to start walking along the coastal road, carrying whatever they could. It's a long walk, especially for those heading to the far north of Gaza, which is over 10 kilometers away. 2 hours later, the Salah al-Din Road, which runs through central Gaza, was opened for vehicles. However, all vehicles must pass Israeli military inspections, which can result in lengthy delays. As for the delay in allowing returns, it stems from disagreements over which hostages should have been released over the weekend. Israel insisted on the release of civilian hostage Aurelia Hood, who will now be freed later this week. The ceasefire agreement's first phase involves the release of 33 Israeli hostages and roughly 1,600 Palestinian prisoners over 6 weeks. Negotiations for subsequent phases, which aim to end the war entirely, will be more complex. Turning to President Trump's remarks, they have been met with strong opposition from Palestinians and the Arab world. Many see his suggestion of relocating Gaza's residents as akin to ethnic cleansing. On the other hand, some far-right Israeli ministers welcome the idea of resettlement to pave the way for Jewish settlers to return to Gaza. Finally, let's hear from Rushi Abalo, our Gaza correspondent, who is currently in Cairo. Rushi, how are you feeling as you watch these scenes of Palestinians returning north? Rushi, it's an emotional day for me and my family. While I'm relieved that my father and relatives can begin their journey back to Gaza City, it's bittersweet. Most homes have been destroyed, and the scale of displacement is staggering. Over 1 million people are trying to return, and many face long, difficult walks along dusty, semi-destroyed roads. Cars are allowed through checkpoints in batches, with inspections taking hours. The local Hamas-run authority has stated that 150,000 tents are urgently needed to accommodate returning families. This highlights the immense destruction in Gaza. I spoke to a man who, after days of waiting at the checkpoint, finally returned to find his home and salon completely destroyed. It's devastating to see his hopes dashed so quickly. While there's relief in returning, the harsh reality of the destruction left behind overshadows the joy. It's a difficult and uncertain road ahead for many.